Hello, fellow followers. Welcome back to FanZcene. Greg here, and today I have you streaming and the preservation of physical media. You guys know here on the channel, I am a huge physical media supporter, and I'm not much for the way of streaming. And as somebody who is a bit older than he actually looks, I'm young and ugly, but I'm older than I look, and I often overlook the younger generation and the way they feel about physical media because we're always told, younger generation, oh, they love streaming. Streaming is all for them. That's what they're gearing towards. TikTok, streaming, all that good stuff. But, believe it or not, there are some young people out there that are starting to realize that streaming maybe isn't as good or as cool as they thought it once was, and that physical media and having a physical copy might just be important. And it's kind of sucks what's happening with physical media amongst the studios and everything and the streamers. And I actually came across this article, or an opinion piece as it were, from a college a website. I'm going to pop up this article here. It's called the Poly Post. It's from a college, university, I want to say newspaper because I'm old. I want to say newspaper, but I guess it is a student newspaper, online student newspaper. I'm old, guys. I'm old, but this really struck me because I know what I'm into. I know what I like and everything, but it's really interesting to hear some of the stuff that this young woman here, because this is an article by let me scroll down here so I can remember her name, Allison Larimore, and like I said, it's a bit of an opinion piece, and she does repeat some of the stuff I've said here before on my channel, so I'll try not to repeat as much as I do, because I tend to repeat a lot. I know I do that, but it helps get my point across. But let's get into this, because I want you guys to see that some of the youth of America actually are out there wanting to preserve physical media. It says, physical media has been a constant in my life from the day I got my first CD, which is physical media, not just movies here, people, not just Blu-rays and DVDs. A Year Without Rain by Selena Gomez at 7 years old. There you go. So you see that she's young. Her first CD was from Selena Gomez at 7 years old. And it says, I didn't know my own music collection would grow to more than 150 CDs in the last 13 years. As a visual and kinetic learner, I've always loved seeing the art printed on the disc and booklet insert of a new album. Spiritbox's Eternal Blue and My Chemical Romance's Life on the Murder Scene come to mind when thinking about physical editions that stood out to me. I bet you guys never thought you'd heard me talk about My Chemical Romance and Spiritbox and Selena Gomez on here with, with all the old horror B movies and stuff I talk about. But yes, this is important, and that is something I'm glad she's noticed, that like the artwork and booklets, inserts and stuff, and CDs, and specifically like with me and Blu-rays and stuff. That's something you get with physical media. That's something you don't get with streaming. You got that cool artwork, you got the linear notes, you got like these books that you can read on and stuff. And it's just something that you miss having to be able to have in your hands that you just don't get with streaming. And this continues with, since 2019, however, since 2019, I've noticed the physical media sections of stores are lacking or phased out completely. For example, like we've talked about many times, like I said, I'm not going to go too much about this, but Best Buy announced in October 2023, its stores will no longer sell DVDs in the new year after axing their CD section in 2018. It's disheartening to see a major media retailer shift away from the physical format. It is disheartening because we are losing a lot of those in stores. That's why so many people keep saying physical media is dead, is dying, because it's not dead or dying. It's just, honestly, it's dead in physical brick and mortar stores, big box stores. Hopefully not Walmart, though. I know people keep saying Walmart's closing. No, Walmart seems to be actually trying, but not really caring how they organize their physical media. That's the thing, is like they got these new steelbooks and stuff, and they're putting them out, but they're still just not, doesn't feel like they have the passion for it just yet. And I think we need to show Walmart that, to get that passion for physical media. Knowing there's people who may not experience the excitement of unexpectedly finding one of their favorite movies or albums at a store, have fond memories of visiting Target and pursuing their walls of CDs for anything I didn't have yet. But now they only have a small shelf and maybe an end cap for both CDs and vinyls, all of which I'm really interested in or looking for, which is funny because we saw that vinyl is coming back big time, and this younger woman here is not into the vinyl and the CDs. So that's interesting. So I bet I would have to say those vinyls and the CDs that are out, because I know CDs have actually started selling well again, as too, is probably not My Chemical Romance and stuff, probably like older stuff that's been released on CD before, like my generation, because I think most people are going back to the older stuff. It's like I hate to say it, but it's like a hipster thing with vinyl and all that. So it's probably not stuff she's interested in that regard. So I get it. And this continues with more movies and TV shows are exclusively on streaming platforms, and music successes are based on the number of digital listens rather than the physical copy sold. Despite its convenience, the streaming era is killing media preservation. I, you know, in some sense, maybe, maybe not amongst people like myself and collectors and people who are starting to notice this and like younger people like this. But I would definitely think, with the studios and the streaming and the music industry, even though the music industry does seem to be starting to give it physical media a little more love, although it's final, like we mentioned. Um, I would have to say yes. In a way, it is killing. They themselves are trying to kill physical media preservation because as I discussed, Hollywood never wanted us to have physical media, and they're in such a rush to go digital and streaming music and everything that why do you need physical? So like they're kind of not preserving that in any way, shape, or form. The use of streaming services such as Spotify and Netflix have dominated media consumption in the past decade. They are convenient and high quality without ad interruptions. Not true. You are now paying for ad tier plans. I don't know about Spotify. I don't do digital music. I don't listen to that music. No, I don't do that. I don't do Spotify, all that. I don't do that. But I know they have ads for the free plans or something. Maybe I think there's ad plans. But yes, you can say there are ad interruptions now because in order for you to get these streaming services at a cheaper rate, you got to pay for ads. And it says, and users can access just about any song or movie through an app subscription rather than having to pay for each one individually. As we know, that is not true, which I'm sure she's going to get into here as well, because I've talked about it before. Not everything is on streaming. One limitation of this, though, is what happens when a product is discontinued and becomes unavailable. In a world that's shifted to online content from physical, once we lose access to a certain album or TV show on streaming platforms, we seem to lose it forever. Which I'm so glad they are starting to notice that when something gets taken off streaming or something like that, that it's gone. And this is why a physical copy is super, super important. A physical book, a physical CD, a physical LP, a physical movie, a physical DVD, Blu-ray, 4K, physical comic book. Physical copy is important. And in some cases, you may have to go sell the 7 Cs or bootleg to get what you want, because once it's taken off streaming, it could be gone forever. One of my favorite artists, Japanese visual kei group, Malice Miser, never had their music on streaming platforms due to copyright issues from being on multiple record labels over the 9-year career. If it weren't for people who purchased their CDs when the band was active from 1992 to 2001 and uploaded their music to YouTube, Malice Miser would have essentially become unknown to anyone outside of those fans with physical copies. If streaming music continues to be as prominent as it is and physical copies become obsolete, lesser known artists whose work isn't on the services will hardly have any chance of exposure. Exactly. And it's also I know she seems like she's a little more into music here than movies, but like I said, CDs and stuff and like that's still physical media. It's still on topic here, and you can still stream music. And yes, it's interesting because I feel the same way towards independent filmmakers and stuff who cannot get a lot of their stuff. And I know I did a video on Tubi talking about how they edit stuff, but I still think Tubi operates differently than most streaming platforms. It operates like regular TV, and in some cases they do, not all, but they do tell some studios that they have to edit their movies to put on Tubi. Yes, there is still unedited stuff on Tubi. So Tubi is a decent streaming platform, and I have nothing against them, and it's a great tool for independent filmmakers. And I also think YouTube, surprise, surprise, is a great tool for music music groups like Malice Miser, which I've never heard of. I'm not into Japanese music or anything like that. But and license issues she mentioned, they were on different labels, and there's different license issues and with that becomes a whole sort of problems, which is why you lose movies and music from platform to platform, because maybe somebody owns the license over here, or like in some cases, somebody outside of the U.S. might own the worldwide licenses, and somebody in the US might own the US licenses. And if there's a dispute, then you can't get that movie in the US, or you can't get that movie or music in the overseas or in the US movie or music anyway like that. And if it wasn't for like people like, fans and people doing YouTube and independent filmmakers stuff and even Tubi and stuff like that will allow these platforms for these people to get their stuff out there and in maybe some way get a physical copy of it. They wouldn't exist. They could be just gone into obscurity. And it's funny because a lot of this, like even like with music, is like cult films, cult music and stuff. That's really like the base. I've noticed like horror fans, cult films, B movies, and lesser known stuff, niche stuff is what's really are the group of people that who are really into like preserving physical media and stuff like myself. And it continues. Another example is when a show I am a longtime fan of and take comfort in, the anime Soul Eater, was taken off Netflix in November 2021. Since it left Netflix, I haven't been able to watch it because it moved to Hulu, which I don't have a subscription to. It bothers me that the content is constantly switching between platforms, making people pay for multiple services just to access something that is ultimately only temporarily available, since it can be removed at any time. Yes, exactly. And once again, I'm not into anime, but this is something I really want to cover because there's such vast differences, because I love the fact that she's feeling the same things that myself and so many other people are feeling about movies and music and stuff. Yes, I'm geared towards older stuff. She's clearly geared towards her generation's worth of stuff, and she feels like she's losing that connection to her generation. And that just, that's somewhere where my older generation, her younger generation on this type of stuff can connect. And yes, it's like I mentioned, it's because of licensing. Soul Eater could have had license from somebody else, and Netflix, they pulled it from Netflix, switched to Hulu, and there's multiple streaming services, and you can't pay for all of them. And I'm telling you guys, sometimes, buying a physical copy, if you can get a hold of that physical copy, even a bootleg, is vastly cheaper than spending month after month or year after year on these streaming services, because it adds up. And like I mentioned in my last video, you're paying for internet. Sometimes you're paying for internet through cable services. So you got the internet bill, your multiple streaming services bill, and you're losing shows and music, and you're paying for streaming music and stuff. You're losing the shows and music left and right, just left and right. I mean, it's insane. It's insanity. As services merge and constantly change their catalogs, it's becoming increasingly important to have physical copies. 100% agree, 100% agree, of our favorite music and movies to prevent irreversible loss. We saw this in August 2022 with HBO Max, when multiple Cartoon Networks, this is something I wanted to touch on too, because this has been brought up to my attention a couple times in some of my comments and stuff. Like I said, I'm an older guy. I'm not into cartoons. I'm not into like some of this stuff like here, but this is important because that's happening as well. But this is something been brought up, and I want to touch on this but I want to read what she says first. It says, with HBO Max, when multiple Cartoon Networks shows were removed with little notice, even some made for an exclusive to the platform, multiple animators took to Twitter, now X, to express their disappointment with their works now inaccessible. We worked for 5 years to make 100 episodes of animation, Julia tweeted. Julia Pott, whose animated show Summer Camp Island was one of the many affected by the removal. We worked late into the night. We let ourselves go. We were a family of hardworking artists who wanted to make something beautiful, and HBO Max just pulled them all like we were nothing. Animation is nothing. Yes, that is true. I've heard this. I don't know the show Summer Camp Island. I didn't even know there was 100 episodes of that show. I've never heard of it. But this is something yet that I've, like I mentioned, people have told me that they're being removed, and it does feel like animation is becoming as obsolete as everything else in today's day and age. Regular animation and stuff like that. I don't know. I don't think it was CGI, and they're being pulled from these shows and everything. And in some cases, it's because some of the stuff isn't being watched, but in a lot of cases, like something that has 100 episodes, you figured that would have been watched, and people want to see that. It's also there. Paul Chato did a great video talking about streaming has effed up Hollywood because of with streaming, like what the writers have done, and like writers are complaining, which they did do the strike and everything, and it looks like they ended up getting screwed during that strike after all. But like there's no room for these writers anymore, because they're not. It's like it's becoming a problem, and the streaming platforms, they don't need these writers. They're using AI, and they're just like hiring them for real quick and moving them on. And in some cases, they're just removing shows completely, and that's that. And they don't get residuals and everything. So it's It's insanity. And this continues with one of Potts' replies to a comment under her post said that she was given only a day's notice that her work would be removed from the streaming platform, sadly. Other creators who made shows for different streaming services and channels also shared a critical perspective on HBO Max's actions in solidarity with their industry peers. What's happening at HBO Max is so scary from a creator perspective, tweeted Hamish Steele, creator of Dead End Paranormal Park on Netflix. Like making a show for a streamer, you rarely get a chance for a physical release. Or if it were to air anywhere else and being reminded that they can just delete it from existence, all your work, your portfolio, awful. Yes, this is another reason why streaming is killing entertainment and is basically disrupting physical media. I don't want to say it's killing or destroying physical media, but I think it's actually some of this stuff, with what's going on might actually be giving physical media a heads up and why so many people are turning to it. At least that I know. It is funny because all this stuff is being removed, and you see that it's like with these streaming services, if they don't need it, if it's not working, it's not playing, or if they just want to get rid of it. Like even in some cases, like maybe I'm gonna touch back on it. Like that had 100 episodes of that cartoon. Yeah, it might have played on regular TV or regular cable, and it might have played and lasted 100 episodes. But with streaming, it's all based on algorithm and watch time. Right. So if that show that lasted 100 episodes isn't going through the algorithm and it isn't making that hits that they want and watching like that, it's gone. They'll get rid of it because they don't care. It's all done through computer. It's not done through human things and gauging human interest and allowing things to grow. And, it's just that's how it goes. And the article concludes here, despite the convenience of streaming platforms for entertainment, they do not guarantee we'll have access to our favorite media forever. No, they do not. Music and films have a finite lifespan when it comes to their digital formats. So true. So it's vital we keep physical copies from becoming obsolete, lest we become unable to interact with them ever again. And that is great. I really, really enjoyed reading that article from that young woman, Allison, I believe her name was. Yes, see, I often overlook the younger generation because I'm 40 years old and I love older stuff. I love a good black and white film. I love a good 70s movie, 80s movie, 90s movie, 60s movie, 50s movies. I can watch all that. And I feel like a lot of that is being lost. And it feels like a lot of stuff is being geared towards the younger generation on streaming platforms and stuff. And entertainment today just feels like content, message driven, just nonsense, and things are being stripped and pulled down and lost. And and I'm glad to see that at least this young lady here and a lot of the younger generation, which I've started to see more in my comments, and I've started to get a little more younger audience through my analytics because I usually skew older, are starting to see that maybe physical media is important. And if I didn't bring this up earlier, it's just like I want to say, like streaming started around like 2006 or something like that. It wasn't like in 2006, like when streaming kicked off that boom, everything was automatically streaming. We had Hulu, we had Disney Plus. No, we had Netflix. There were still DVDs, there were still Blu-rays, there were still CDs. All that physical media still existed. It took a while to get to where we are now. And to see that we often forget that some of the younger generation actually grew up with that stuff. And maybe they were little kids, but then now, they've all gone streaming, but they're also sort of remembering that physical media they had back in the day. And they're thinking, maybe a physical copy and preserving physical media is important. But let me know what you guys think about all this in the comment section down below, from whatever age you are, from if you're a young kid or to your adult to an old person like myself or older than me. What are your thoughts on this about preserving physical media and what streaming has done to physical media and art and music and entertainment and all that? Leave that in the comment section down below. And if you liked what you saw here, maybe consider hitting that like button or subscribing and hitting that bell for notifications. That would be awesome if earned your guys' subscriptions, or possibly share the video out for everybody to see, or join and become a channel member, because that would help on my channel immensely. Thank you and shout out to all my channel members. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. Thank you guys for your channel membership and all your support. And to everybody watching, whether you liked me, hated me, or liked this video, or hated this video, I thank you for sticking this long. Wherever you all are, please have a great, safe, happy, healthy day, morning, afternoon, evening, and night. Always support physical media. It truly is the superior format. Godspeed.